I wasn't grading my day on how successful it was. It was, did you love what you made today? And I think those beginning years really got me into that mindset. So I'm thankful for them.
Hey, I'm Kim, and today I'm going to be talking with Nashville-based, Kansas-born songwriter Nicolle Galyon. She's written hits with everybody from Miiranda Lambert to Kenny Chesney to Keith Urban. That tequila song by Dan and Shay, that's hers too. Nicolle, welcome to Songwriter Saturday.
Hi.
Hi. Thrilled to have you. You know, we haven't had a country artist for Songwriter Saturday yet, so you're the inaugural one. I was interested in how you arrived in Nashville. You know, you knew from 8th grade that you wanted to go there, but it wasn't with this idea of being a songwriter in mind.
I've just been the biggest country music fan to the point to where I was obsessed with the details, right? Like back when it was liner notes and CDs, I knew who every songwriter was and every producer and the names of publishing companies and things like that. I've got to Nashville because I went to Belmont University and I knew I wanted to be in Nashville because I knew I wanted to be in the business somehow. And so it checked that box. And then I got a business degree. So like that's really what got me here was Belmont. But it wasn't until I got here that I met a bunch of songwriters. And as I was meeting songwriters, I wound up in what they call in Nashville a guitar pull, which is just, it sounds like a formal thing. It's not. It's just a name that we've given to the moment when you're in someone's living room and someone pulls out a guitar and they're like, listen to this song I wrote, and then they start passing this guitar around. And I found myself in those environments and I was watching these songwriters play songs that they had written, and I just blindly thought, I think I'm a songwriter. I think I can do that.
From the point of signing your publishing deal to the point of you kind of getting your first proper big break, it was several years. How did you keep the faith?
Well, I'm just a big believer in you have to be present to win. And so I always would tell myself, which first of all, I had like quarterly meltdowns for like the first 5 years. I would just cry to my husband, he's just an incredible and huge successful songwriter, and he had gone before me. Really, he had had success before me. So I think, to answer your question, there was some power in the fact that I was living with someone every day whose dreams had already started to come true. And I think that inspired me to go, just keep going. Like if it, I think if you see something if you see and are around success, you're more likely to believe that it could happen to you. The whole present to win mentality was like, well, what's your, I would cry to Rodney and I would say, I keep having all these almosts that just are not converting into full yeses. Like I would get a song on hold and it would get cut and it wouldn't make the record. And he would just like calmly look at me and say, well, what else do you want to do? And I never had a good answer. Like, what am I going to do? Just like take myself out of the game? I knew what was going to happen if I quit trying. I don't think in those really hard years in the beginning, I did it because I truly believed that I was going to be successful. I really fell in love with just the everyday life of going and writing a song, and whatever happens to that song when I leave the room and the song is finished was kind of not any of my business anymore. And I kind of inherited that mentality, and I think that's become one of my superpowers in the years after I started having success, was that I wasn't like grading my day on how successful it was. It was, did you love what you made today? And I think those beginning years really got me into that mindset. So I'm thankful for them, for sure.
The tail end of those early years when there was a lot of almost, and then you decided to go on The Voice as like, maybe I need to swerve this way and something will happen. You got on The Voice, what was that, recorded in 2011, and then it was aired in 2012. And then I found it interesting that you actually say, singing is not your comfort zone, basically, which is like, so I think that would be really surprising for a lot of people to hear.
Most females that I know and work with grew up just dying to be on stage, dying to perform, had to sing. That was just like second nature to them. I didn't sing until I wrote my first song. And singing was more of a necessity than a passion. But when I wasn't getting any cuts as a songwriter, I was like, well, maybe, I'm young enough. I can play piano. I can write. I mean, I can sing okay. Maybe that's what I need to try. If no one's going to record my songs, I'm just going to record them myself. So that's how I got into that place where I was even like considering being on The Voice. But then I hit a wall with that, which was nobody cared about me singing my own songs either. What I learned through The Voice was that, and it sounds so simple now in hindsight, but it was a profound breakthrough for me. Being there was realizing you are a creative, but you are not a performer. I still to this day say that The Voice was like the butterfly effect in my career, because everything started to just fall into place, fall in line after I came home from doing The Voice.
What is the idea behind your label, Songs and Daughters, and how did that come about? Because it's a female-focused record label, right?
It's a label, but I call it more, I like to use the metaphor of a home and just say it's a musical home. I just wanted to create something that I would have loved to have had when I was 18, 20, 22, coming up in Nashville. And, in the beginning of my career, I expended a lot of energy trying to grind and trying to fight for myself. And at a certain point when I became successful at it, I didn't have to try so hard. I didn't have, if I want to write with someone, they, for the most part, say, yeah, we'd love to have you, So I had all this bandwidth that I wasn't using, that I used to be using just to try to get in the room, right? Or just to try to get someone to hear my song. And I was like, I kind of hit a wall where I was like, this is not as fulfilling anymore just to fight for myself. I want to put my energy into something that I can experience with people. It's so fulfilling to get to be a part of a more musical family, a more like a home. And I especially love getting to work with women, because I didn't have a ton of women that like really went to bat for me coming up through the ranks. And I think that that's what leadership is trying to like become something that you needed at one point in your life.
Recently, you've said that you've talked about coming into like a new stage in life where you're giving yourself permission to ask for more, to ask for the best deal. I'm trying to think about that through the lens of like an up and coming songwriter, because is it really you could only get to that point when you had a rock solid back catalog?
In the beginning of your career, you give away a little bit more. You give away a little bit more publishing, right? Because that's, you have all these people that are building and they're betting on you. But then if you are a career artist or a career songwriter, at the end of your career, I feel like what ends up happening is you don't have to give that much away when you're past your prime, if that makes sense. So they kind of like balance each other out. And so I think if you just bet on the arc that you are going to be successful, and knowing that as a new artist that, your deal might not look like maybe my deal 15 years in, but betting on yourself can look like, okay, this gets me in the game, and I know that I'm good enough that my next deal is going to look like that. One of the things that I think gives us the most longevity as country songwriters specifically is our relationships and the community, like the real tight-knit community that we have with each other. To become, I think, a really great songwriter is we have to complete a task. We have to create a song. But then the other thing that I think is as equally, if not more important, is, am I somebody that people want to be around for 4 to 6 or 8 hours today? And I think our community really values that in people. And so then if you've gone a year or two without having a hit, I think people still want to work with you because they just enjoy the experience. Going back to what I said earlier about, do you love the process? And if you can be a person that people love the process with, I think you're going to have longevity beyond any kind of expiration date, because because we are all magnets and we just want to get back in the room with each other and go, what else could we make? What else could we make?
Yeah, I get it. Okay, well, just finally, I guess, what kind of tip would you have for a young songwriter fresh off the Greyhound, arriving in Nashville, getting their feet wet in that community?
First of all, it's important to get a job that you can pay the bills with. The goal is it's not a race to get a publishing deal or a record deal. This is a long game. And part of the long game is getting yourself in a position to where you can keep your body living in Nashville. And part of that is paying your bills. So get a job. The second thing that I would do is to try to, in addition to just writing all the time, is to meet people that are on your level. Because I think that it looks really sexy and cool to go, how do I get in the room with insert big hit songwriter? But nothing is more fulfilling than meeting people on your level and coming up through the ranks with your peers. And it's a really safe place to be able to experiment and to learn how to be a better writer, is in the room with other people who are doing the same. So those are the first two things that I tell people. In fact, I have a little brother who's 19. He's not so little anymore, but he just moved here. And those are the things that I just told him to do, is get a job that you can mentally walk away from and then use whatever time you have left. And, stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning. I mean, to write. I mean, that's what all the people that I know here that have made it, they had other jobs first. And so don't be too proud to not do some of that grunt work on the front end.
Well, Nicolle, thank you so much for hanging out. You're in Nashville, I'm in New York. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.